provenance. What is provenance? You're my students today. I like it. We're at the schoolhouse.
Where it's from.
Where it's from. But it's
Documented
actually
if possible. Documented if possible.
You got it. It is not just that origin. In fact, origin is provenience. And then we jump to provenance, and the provenance is taking it from that origin to where we are today. And I'll go over my notes, more professorial probably, and yet very casual, and hope your eyes don't glaze over. But in this aspect, it's also intellectually one of the great chases, because it goes well beyond the idea of simply the object. It really tells us of origins and ultimately the people, the places, the times, the social and the cultural context in which every generation or culture has redefined often itself, often through the illusion of older objects. I will say illusion, because very rarely, think of this has nothing to do with actual provenance, but chemical change. We go to museums today, we look at Roman glass. Oh, that beautiful opalescence, so gorgeous. It's not what the Romans saw. That is actual deterioration of the glass over the centuries. So, what we see, and we often romance, is not, in fact, what even the Romans saw or experienced. I think this is much Bruce illustrated very well last night, the idea of the little lamp. I can remember they were even being sold in the back of magazines for years and years. Again, age is not a relevant issue. It might be. Sometimes things are so wonderfully rare, an esoteric scholar can say, oh, this is the rarest, most wonderful piece. And academically it may be of great value, but it has no value in the marketplace, because there is, as he was saying last night, no comparative value. The other thing that sometimes we don't fully appreciate is cultural fusion, how things come together. Transfer of information. We hear the term majolica for a certain type of, or faience for a type of ceramic that's very popular and revived very much in the Victorian era. Well, majolica comes from Moyolica. Moyolica is a reference to great Arab markets held on the island of Majorca. A great glazeware that we associate is really being brought into Middle Age Europe, traded off that island. Christians, Muslims, didn't matter. It was about business. Okay? It enters into Spain, the majority of which at that point is Islamic. Artisans of both religious backgrounds participate in its production. It's exported into France, into Germany. So the idea of modern trade or free trade, the world's been trading for a long time. Think of this, we prize blue and white ceramics from that idea of the Ming dynasties. Well, the Chinese, in fact, loved celadon. The cobalt used in that blue and white pottery of the earlier production periods, in fact, was mined in the Middle East. It was sent on the camel caravans all the way to deep Asia into the Chinese production zones. The Chinese produced it for export back to the Islamic nations, who traded it then back to the Europeans, who prized it. The Chinese said, get rid of it. We want the greenware. So, marketplace has often played a very important role in what we look at. So, provenance. Think of this. Today, one of the most popular subjects in the United States today, because we're looking, we'll go back to Alex Haley, the idea of our roots. That's when even that term came into popular play. Well, think of provenance as genealogy. And it's a really interesting game. Same values exist. Same gaps often exist. So provenance is a chase, it is a hunt, it is fun. Oh, one other thing, in larger museums, what is the difference between a curator and an exhibit designer and the registrar? Because these are different roles. Curators very rarely touch objects. A lot of people don't realize this. They create the intellectual story, and they work with other members of the teams to create an exhibit. And an exhibit, when it's well done, is not objects. It is not just a loose assortment of interesting things. It is like excellent literature, well-orchestrated music. It can be an opera or a symphony. It's how objects relate to one another and come into a flow. Like a well-constructed sentence leads into a paragraph that leads into a novel. These are the same structures of exhibition that we leave with greater knowledge, but the enthusiasm of wanting and asking for more. That's outstanding exhibition design because it brings us back. And the other thing that's very important, that those exhibits change regularly, giving a person that reason to come to a museum many times to expand everyone's dialogue, including the staff. Your input is very important to the staff of every museum because we're there sharing and learning together. It is not about dogmas. It is about expanding our collective knowledge, that we give our children in the future a greater appreciation of all that's been achieved for millennia. And that's what's so exciting about Fredericksburg, of how we are really not an isolated community in our county. We're a part of the world, and it tells a really big and exciting story that doesn't culminate here and now. It has a great future, as much because all of you are here today. I mean, this is the exciting thing for me. Now, if we get through, if we start talking about provenance, what is it? And it's really going to be something that shades, it gives us, and it sheds light on the historical and the economic context of peoples, places, and time. It's context. It gives us a greater understanding, the depth of what's in that object. Every piece. Think of this. Well, with the exception of this, well, no, this one actually is man-made too. Okay. Every object in here has a history, not to be taken for granted. Every little name that's been carved in these desks tells us something. There's information there, possibly not forgotten. It's in front of us. Part of that story has been lost. But in every object, there is literally the expression of humanity's concepts of design, social values. What is a school? What is the design of it? How do all of these things function in a simple schoolhouse or the most sophisticated high-tech school of today? It's all a graduation of information and values pulled together so that it functions. If you want to use the German term in relation to one of their post-World War I schools, the Bauhaus, form and function. Well, today we call that ergonomics. It was always there, practicality. It's going to work for us.